I determined within myself if there was going to be a new technological wave, I was going to be a part of it. And here comes generative artificial intelligence. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be caught sleeping like I was on coding.
And you
When
told
it
me
was at
about
the
that
turn
in
of the
text.
century,
Yeah.
I had to teach myself HTML code for Dummies is a book that I read literally so I could learn how to be the best coder that I could. I used to go and look at websites and flip them over to HTML just so I can see how to create things. The same kind of initiative started when I heard about artificial intelligence. It's like, okay, how's this going to change the classroom?
You are now listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with your host, George Valenzuela.
This is education coach George Valenzuela. Welcome to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast, where I provide all educators, whether instructional leaders or teachers, tips on how to be their best both personally and professionally. Now let's get into it. We're here today with my new and good friend, Jean Darnell, also known as the Awaken Librarian. Jean is an education consultant and keynote speaker. Now, I met Jean at the TCEA 2025 conference. And before the conference, she got into my DMs, y'all. She wrote to me, George, you're a featured speaker at the conference, and so am I. Let's get together. She came to my session. We then did a podcast together, and we've been in sync ever since. How are you?
I am doing okay.
Jean, you're an advocate for students through your work as the Awaken Librarian. Can you talk about the moment you realized that librarianship was more than just managing books?
At every pivotal point in my life, I found myself in the library, whether it's going for job resources, even when I was in grade school and my parents were going through a divorce, I found myself wandering in the library. And the librarian took me under her wing because I was that problem child back in the early 80s. And when you were misbehaving, you got sent to the library or somewhere
I was
along
that
those
kid
lines. You had to
too.
get out of the pod. It was back when we had little grade pods. So I was sent to the library one day and she realized I could read and I loved reading. To get me to do my work, she traded off library books. I get a new picture book and I'd read through it, entertain myself.
Mm.
And then I would do my work begrudgingly just so I could rush to get to the next book because she always selected cool books. So I knew then she had to be a wizard. I was working at a high school as an English teacher, and
Mm.
Dr. Leslie was my librarian. And he always had great programs, weird little programs that just tied things in the synchronicity of life. I was like, man, he's like a little wizard. And he was working on a book, and I was like, oh, and he needed researchers. And I knew I loved to like research and just go investigate and find my inner Sherlock Holmes, if I could put it like that, and get some answers. He was always encouraging me to go to school, library school. He's like, I think you'd make a fantastic librarian. I was like, you have to have a master's degree for that. I was like, I ain't got no money for that. I was like, you figure out a way for me to go and I'll go. It just so happened one day he had figured out a way. He said, you should go to library school. And he's like, before you say you don't have the money, I have a way it's already paid for. You just got to take your GRE. So I was like, what? He's just, yeah. So literally, he told me that October, November, I took my GRE. I was in library school that following January. And less than 2 years later, I had my master's degree and it was paid for. All I had to do was pay for my books. A hidden expense was the evening care because I was a single mom. I had a 11-year-old and a 5-year-old at that time. My mom, she was my saving grace. She made sure that evening care was taken care of so I can go to school. She's, if you're going to get a further advance yourself and get a degree, I will help you. It was blood, sweat, and tears being a single mom full time and going to grad school all on my own. But man, with the power of a woman, my mama, having moms tend to have your back through thick and thin, she was able to get me through library school. And that's when I found out really what librarians do.
I'm going to get completely off topic because I was an avid reader as a little kid as well. When you brought up Sherlock Holmes, I have to ask you, did you read Encyclopedia Brown?
Yes, I sure did.
I used to love those books. Bugs Meany, Encyclopedia Brown. If you're not up on it, y'all, you got to check this out. It was a
I
great
think they
series of
still have
books.
archived copies at various libraries because it was such a rich series. I'm sure you can get your hands on it.
Jean, you've been diving deep into generative artificial intelligence, AI for the audience recently. How do you see artificial intelligence reshaping the role librarians play in schools over the next few years?
We're going to be the investigators, the critical analyzers of AI, because it's in our nature. We teach, we follow the threads, and we want to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everybody is represented equally. That's the lens librarians are going to come through when it comes to generative artificial intelligence. So that's going to be our placeholder. We're going to look at the copyright. We're going to look at the representation, the transparency to make sure the rules are what they are and no one is being slighted or left out. Everybody's voice is represented. I think those are the lenses that school libraries are going to have to look through, because there's a lot of data out there. We have to make sure that data is protected, whether students are using their biometric data or just personal sensitive information. We need to make sure that there are safeguards in place, that information stays as intact and as private as possible, whether it's online laws, predatory laws, and citizenship, all of those things that factor into what we already do as librarians. We also look how information literacy, media literacy, visual mapping, all of that are things that pertain to the library role, or the skills that we teach our students despite the grade level. Those are the lenses that we're going to have to wade through, if we could say it like that, for the transparency aspect when it comes to generative artificial intelligence.
And that's the lens that most people don't get to see through. Like me, I never even thought of those things. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jean, congratulations on being named a 2024 Pulitzer Center Teacher Fellow. Can you share more about what you're focusing on in this fellowship, specifically around artificial intelligence?
Thank you. I got involved with it because I determined within myself, if there was going to be a new technological wave, I was going to be a part of it. And here comes generative artificial intelligence. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be caught sleeping like I was on coding. And
And you told
when it
me
was at
about
the
that.
turn of the century,
Yeah.
I had to teach myself HTML code for dummies is a book that I read literally so I could learn how to be the best coder that I could. I used to go and look at websites and flip them over to HTML just so I can see how to create things. The same kind of initiative started when I heard about artificial intelligence. It's like, okay, how's this going to change the classroom? I was reading and learning and enrolling in so many boot camps because I needed to be aware, because they were saying, oh, it's going to replace people's jobs. And oh, generative artificial intelligence is reading resumes and that's how people are getting selected. A computer is doing it. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I started by just investigating so I wouldn't be one of those anti the latest technological advance. I didn't want to be on the naysayer. I was like, if you're going to hate it, at least know what you're hating so you can name it and know what it is before you just automatically write it off. I started tinkering with it, playing with ChatGPT, OpenAI, and I started, okay, this is amazing. I learned the language and the lingo. I learned what prompts were, what hallucinations were with large language models. And then I started delving into the ethics and seeing whose voice was represented. Pulitzer Center found out about it. At first, it was PBS, and then PBS led that article that I did for them, turned around, it was in Pulitzer Center. And they were like, hey, we're looking at a cohort. We have generative artificial intelligence. Submit an application and see if this would be something that you're interested in. Of course, I was interested in it because they had the investigative side. Remember, I think sometimes what is it? Enola Holmes or Sherlock Holmes' little sister. I have a little Enola in me because that reporting, getting down to the source, the meat, the truth, and whose truth is being represented was very important to me. And Pulitzer Center had a lot of research. And as a librarian, it spoke to me because it's like, that's data. If there's ever a place to learn, Pulitzer Center is like a primary resources for a lot of things. I'm like, this is a great vessel to learn and teach and further your skill set from. So that's how I got wrapped up into it. It started in October in the fall, and we finished that following June. So it was a long program. We met every week. We had to research articles, and literally they taught us whatever our special skill that we were focusing on. You did the research, you had Padlets and whiteboards, stuff where you submitted your thoughts. It literally was a class. I had another opportunity to delve a little bit deeper, this time from sources that were respected journalists, folks that they were in the rooms that I couldn't be in just because I was a novice and I was still learning. But through their research and through the information they submitted, I was able to absorb so much more. And the Pulitzer Center just gave me that venue. And then I turned that into how would I teach this to my students, middle school? And if they're not age appropriate, so to speak, to be on AI, how would I teach it to high school? Because a lot of my background work is in high school education.
One of the beautiful things about doing this podcast and being in space with amazing educators like Jean is when you get to hear them talk about the work. I think anybody watching right now, anyone listening, knows that they're listening to greatness. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or iTunes, please hit the subscribe button, please hit the like button, and share this episode with your family, friends, and colleagues who are interested in self-improvement through lifelong learning. And now for a word from one of our sponsors.
Education is changing. Classrooms look different, and the future demands that our students be equipped for whatever comes their way. Educators play a huge role in helping prepare students for their futures. Defined Learning is a K-12 standards-aligned PBL solution that provides high-quality cross-curricular performance tasks across content areas such as ELA, math, science, social studies, computer science, and more. The hands-on projects are based on real-world situations and allow students to apply their learning. Education is changing. Give students the tools and experiences to recognize their futures and make an incredible impact on the world. Defined, the authority on applied learning.
We had the pleasure of listening to George this morning on project-based learning, and he shared his story that his aunt encouraged him to go into education. And she was absolutely right. He is so talented at sharing information in a way that is easy to digest and is inspiring to go back and actually implement and make change.
So my takeaway is that Mr. Valenzuela was very inspiring. He was very motivational and helped me to think about a new way of getting my teachers excited.
When I set out to do a workshop, my key deliverable is energy. And this momentum is used to make connections, inspire, educate, and ultimately transform the audience, so that they're compelled to take that same energy back to their schools and communities. And although we have fun, we tackle the hard topics of today, like educational policy, pedagogy for improving curriculum and instruction, and empowering today's students by connecting our work to the needs of the workforce. So please consider Lifelong Learning Defined for your next keynote, workshop, or conference, and overall instructional and educational coaching needs. My name is George, and I hope to connect with you soon.
We would love to have him come and do some work with us and help us be a little more successful and help our students to be more successful.
I move around a lot of schools, and we're seeing a huge disconnect. A lot of teachers that have come from non-traditional pathways, especially in the past few years. And so just interactions, expectations is really the first step. All of my teachers, raise your right hand, and please repeat after me. I promise that I will speak positivity into my students. All of my administrators, all my directors, all my principals, all my coordinators, raise your hands, please, your right hand, and repeat after me. I promise that I will speak positivity into my faculty and staff. Thank you. Jean, I love that you openly advocate for intellectual freedom. Given today's climate, what's your advice to librarians navigating challenges around book banning and censorship?
I would tell you tried and true, because I've been on the light side of this and a dark side of this, if I could say it like that. The first thing, make sure you have a current policy. And when I say current, that's something within the last 3, no more than 5 years, because times have changed within the last 5 years of what considered book challenges and how the strategy is and how you have to be prepared to tackle it. It's no longer you can't have vagueness in your policies. You need to have specifics. There needs to be a chain of command, and whether it's a parent involved or school board, it depends on how your district is run, but make sure that you have things in your policy that says that your student, like whoever it is that you're speaking on behalf of, if you're at a school board meeting, you need to have a current student enrolled in that school district that attends the library that you're referencing. Because some of the strategies we've been on defense too much, and I'm trying to make sure that we're on offense. So the other way we can be on offense is to make sure that you have clear, ironclad policies, that is public, make sure it's easily accessible so everyone could be held accountable. That's everyone from the librarian to parents to your school board members. So make sure you have a current policy. If there are challenges, acknowledge it. but do not give any solutions before you have proceeded through the process. I know a
And
lot,
don't break the law. And don't break the law
right?
wherever you live.
Exactly,
Right.
but you got to watch it because the
Right.
law is fluid as well. Because what you thought was the law 5 years ago has changed. You have a
Dramatically.
lot of strategic people in power that are slipping bills past and trying to put certain things in other bills and bury it deep because we know with legislation, some of our bills are hundreds of pages long and folks are
Mm.
not reading that. So sometimes strategies are to slip something in on page 984. So we just got to make sure. I don't know about you, but I ain't reading 983 pages. But that's part of the strategy. So making sure you have grassroots efforts, you have parents that care and show up for your libraries that are volunteering and making sure that they have a voice and a platform. And then the last thing I want to say is students,
Mm.
because our kids are our biggest stakeholders. So I would love for students to have their own kind of policy on what they would like to see in the library. Give them a seat at the table because these are the ones we're handing the world over to. Our policies and procedures affect these kids.
Students need to be heard, and because they are the future, they need to participate in its creation.
If we really want to engage our youth and be on the same page with our youth, we have to give them the microphone sometimes. Because I don't know about you, but I remember when I was a kid, the adult and feeling like I wasn't heard.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
transfers and that channels into something on the inside of you. We want to teach our kids healthy ways to handle those emotions from the get-go. Why not it be the first examples in something that they care about? If it's books that they care about, literacy, we need to give them opportunity to demonstrate what they have learned. This is a real authentic moment. And our kids do care about their libraries. They care about their books because as soon as I brought to attention that they were losing some of their favorite books like Captain Underpants or Dork Diaries if you're a girl, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid if you're a boy, or things like Jerry Craft's School Kid, all of those field trip, those books that they love, the graphic novels that they were looking for were on the same banned list because they were promoting a life that some folks did not agree with or some folks feel like didn't need to have a representation. No, and when I brought it to their attention, they immediately wanted to do something. And that's what I love about these kids. Our generation right now, and I know people are crazed because they have technology at their fingertips, but that's a platform to me. That's a way for you to advocate. Yes, it's technology and it's fun and games, but they can do things now that I wasn't able to do, that you weren't able to do back in the late 80s, early 90s when we were growing up. We didn't have a way to reach our heroes or to speak up about change and orchestrate it. We were printing out flyers on a Xerox copy machine, and now they can get on live, Insta Live, or WhatsApp
That's
or
it.
whatever, and they can be accessing 10,000 people at a fingertip. And I'm like, dude, that kind of reach now is how global we are and how influential we are to each other. My story is your story, and you're just 2 states away. Whereas growing up as a kid, I felt like my story was only my story. Nobody else was experiencing. Now we have such connectivity that we know someone else out there has the same problems that we have. Let's network. How did you solve it? What did you do differently? How can I problem solve it here with me? And that's that connectivity that I feel like our youth has. That's an advantage because when they see something wrong, they can immediately fix it or repair it. And if they don't know the right way, they can through visual mapping. And I know that's crazy to think of social media as visual mapping, but it is because you can look at somebody's different stories. You can save it, you can flag it, and you can listen to their strategies and then come up with your own game plan, come up with your own way to wade through the waters of whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever problem, whether it's book bans or math problems. Now you can take a picture of a formula, upload it, and you can have somebody explain it and break it down for you. We didn't have that kind of tutoring. And that's some of the advancements in technology that our kids have that they could turn around and use. So give them a seat at the table because their thought process is so unique because it's never been done before. They're the generation that has experienced something like this, and they're the only ones experiencing in that age group. So sometimes they'll have insights that us older fogies, because we grew up in different areas, don't know or didn't realize or hadn't thought of because it wasn't in our formation, if I can say it like that.
Jean, you're known for sharing powerful stories and lessons from your career. Could you share one story that changed how you approach your work?
I'm going to circle right back to what I was saying earlier about artificial intelligence. I knew it was going to transform the way that we taught. I wanted to make sure information literacy was at the forefront of that transition from teachers doing all the lessons themselves and writing everything word for word themselves to having the assistance with artificial intelligence to make our lives easier. Because I was one of those English teachers that was up all weekend grading essays, giving feedback, wishing that I had some type of assistance that I could rely on. And that's artificial intelligence now, because it's sophisticated enough that feedback can be given that's almost, it's credible. It's sound feedback. I'm not saying that we should rely on 100%, but we should give a little bit of nod and credence to making our lives easier, because it can give some feedback and point kids in the right direction and save us maybe 3 or 4 hours on our weekend long hauls for grading.
I can totally relate. As an adjunct college professor that has to grade sometimes 150 papers, it's come in handy. And now for a word from one of our sponsors. If you're a STEM and PBL teacher like me, you're always on the lookout for new project ideas and resources. You know George does PBL, and I'm telling you, look no further than SmartLab. SmartLab really has a fresh take on STEM and PBL. I'm proud to be a partner, and they sponsor the podcast. But just don't take my word for it. Check out what other educators are saying about SmartLab.
When students enter into SmartLab, they are allowed to think outside of traditional norms.
It gives them a lot of agency. They feel empowered and important. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the SmartLab environment and the way the project process is set up.
SmartLab becomes this place where they can do those things and have the time and space to communicate better and even deal with social emotional stuff. They're having a bad day. A SmartLab's a place where we can change the pace of what they're learning to match their mental needs for the day. And that comes back tenfold later on when they want to be there and they want to learn and they want to do stuff and they feel safe and they feel like they can get the things they need.
That's one of the big benefits of being in more of a collaborative environment, is it makes you have to work. It makes you have to be accountable.
Please look in this episode's show notes for a link to connect with SmartLab. Jean, your career has included working with organizations like the Texas Library Association, the American Library Association, and the National Association for Media Literacy Education. What role does collaboration play in your personal growth as an educator and advocate?
I have a network of friends. I call them my professional learning friends, and they're bigwigs in my field. Names like, yes. Yes. No, but it's true. That's the reason why I reached out to you, because technology allowed me to build the professional learning network. And I was watching your videos, this dude, he knows what he's talking about. So I'm gonna follow him. And that's literally meeting my heroes that I have learned from online and real.
Wait. Hey, can I tell you something? When I sat with you and Andre on the podcast, immediately I felt the way that you felt about me. Here's somebody that I need to know, someone that is gifted, is talented. I wouldn't say smart, intelligent, because there is a difference. There's some smart people that aren't intelligent. They're book smart.
Can you just let that linger in the air? We need to put it on a t-shirt. So for y'all, smart but not intelligent.
I just wanted you to know that I see you the same way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But it is true, because especially as a librarian, I'm usually the only person representation on my campus. So I join organizations like Texas Library Association, ALA, so I can tap into more than just my mind. Because I think sometimes you get stuck in your own head and you think that you know everything that you need to know, and you don't know that there's a whole mountain out there of brand new knowledge that you need to grab a hold of. It takes building the networks and the connections that you have to develop yourself in real life, because these are the ones that I turn to. Hey, do you think this would be a good move for me strategically? I'm thinking about turning this way and I want to do this volunteer, or I want to do this. Someone told me volunteer for it. Donate your time for free and see if that's really something you want to be. And that's advice that I've always taken to core, because volunteering, it gives you one of two things. It shows you truly how committed you are to it, and you don't have to waste anybody's financial times, but it will give you the experience and the enrichment that you need to truly decide if that's what you want to be. And then volunteer connects you. It connects you with folks that, you otherwise wouldn't have had an opportunity to engage with. So I truly believe in volunteering your time. And that's partly because I'm Divine Nine, and sisterhood, scholarship, and service was a part ingrained into my brain as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I had to drop my letters. True to form, service was a part of understanding and part of my college tutelage. So I embed that into my regular everyday life, talking to those people that I see on the internet in real life and saying, you matter to me. What you said to me changed me and influenced me to do this. And I want to thank you, or I want to shadow you and learn from you and pick your brain and have a chit chat so I can become better and we can polish each other, so to speak, as jewels in the crown of life.
Jean, your passion clearly extends beyond the library, like your love for Interview with a Vampire. How do your personal interests shape the way you connect with your students and your community?
The first way I did was through comic books and my love for Star Wars. I know I'm dating myself. I am 100% a Star Wars fan. I think the most heartwarming day ever as an educator was when one of my students, he was my ESL students, he didn't broken English. He was doing his best he could, but it just wasn't coming to him naturally. But he was a wonderful artist. I told him, I said, just take anything that you've learned in my class and give me a visual representation, because I felt like visual literacy was still applicable. You might not have been able to say everything you wanted to say as smoothly as you wanted to as a new language learner, but his art, I felt, was transformative. And one day he had flunked a quiz. I said, I'm gonna let you do a visual quiz. Give me an artistic representation of something that you've learned in semester. Lo and behold, he had painted this big painting. Everyone is running ahead of him. They're like, Miss D, Mario has something for you. He has something for you. He brought the artwork. I was worried about what it was and didn't give him anything. I wanted him to have free expression. So he brings in this painting. He has me close my eyes and he's, open your eyes. And so I open it up and it was me standing there with a lightsaber. He had painted me as Lord Vader and the mask had broken off so you could see half of my face in the eye, and I was holding a lightsaber in this kind of fortitude pose. And he goes, I painted this because I remembered the day, like one of our students, he had an old Lord Vader helmet relic from the 80s, put it on me, and I walked around class and he's like, you were so powerful in that moment. You transformed as my teacher. That never left my brain. And that was the pose that he painted me as. And I was just like, that was the one day my kids got me. They tugged on my heartstring a little too much. And I was getting ready to let that tear, that gangster tear fall. But it was that moment that connected us. He saw me as I saw myself as a kid, because I was transformed in that moment to the little girl who told her dad that she was going to trick-or-treating Halloween as Lord Vader. And I was standing up to him because I was like, oh, I'm going to be power. No one messed with Lord Vader. Come on. My dad was 6'3", big, intimidating guy. And I wanted to be powerful for Halloween. He was just like, no. I ended up being a clown that Halloween. So that the irony in that is even further funny. But connecting with my kids, Matt, he knew me well enough to know me in that moment and that pose. It was a ricochet. It was a ripple, if I could say it. He touched me as an 8-year-old kid. He touched me as an educator in that moment. He saw me through the lens as I was seeing myself empowered when I had that helmet on. To the day, like most people don't know, I still wear a Lord Vader helmet. I've had this for eons. I wear it around my neck every day. Him painting that in that moment, I'm telling you, it was transformative. Sometimes kids can touch you and you don't know how your heart's going to get plucked, but he plucked my heart.
As we say on this show, God never makes mistakes. What a perfect way to end this show. Jean, let's put this in the universe. How can people nationally, internationally, all over the globe, how can they contact you so you can speak at your school, conference, or event?
AwakenLibrarian.com. You can find everything about me, from my resume to how to reserve time and space to have me there at your campus.
Beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you, my friend. That's my digital baby.
That's it for this episode. Until next time, this is the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast. Whether you're a teacher or administrator, you lead by walking alongside your students and your staff. You teach them what to do. You model for them. Let's say you're in a situation where you don't know what to do and you bring in a coach or a resource, you learn alongside them. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the second thing is this. Give your people feedback, not pushback. whoever you push back on, whether physically or verbally, they're going to do it right back immediately. And if they're intimidated by our position, our status, they're going to do it behind our backs and ruin our programs. My guy. I want to leave you on this note. Trajectories can be changed. When I was in 10th grade, here's a snapshot of who I was in 10th grade. There's a rapper named Rakim. I'm not sure if you guys know about Rakim, but he used to say, it's not where you're from, it's where you at. And I played that on my headphones at 16 years old every day until I believed it. And I'm showing you this because I'm seeing versions of this throughout American schools. This is your reality of what you have to face. If I can do it, any kid can do it, but they have to work hard. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with George Valenzuela.